There are two ways really to convert black and white on the computer. I'm always talking to you guys about shooting it right in camera, getting it right, and we talk about that a lot. You really want to be shooting for black and white, and if you do that, your results are going to just go up here. Then you come to post-production, and that's what I'm going to show you today is the easiest way to get really good black and white. I'm going to show you the new Silver 5 presets and the mod kit and how I do that. But regardless of how you edit your black and white, whether you use my presets or make your own, this formula is going to apply. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I use Silver 5. You absolutely need to be using presets. It doesn't mean you have to use my presets. Maybe you're getting free ones. A lot of those are up and down. Maybe you've downloaded some free ones off my site. Maybe you're making your own. Maybe you're a user of my Silver 5 presets. Maybe you want to check them out. And if you do, obviously that supports the channel. I'll put a link to them. But regardless of how you do it, don't let anyone tell you that, oh, presets are for amateurs. I remember back before Lightroom ever came out, as a professional wedding photographer, I was buying presets before I even developed them. This was more than 15 years ago. Okay, this was before Lightroom, buying presets for Camera Raw because they saved us so much time. They made us so much more creative and efficient. Don't let the photo club snob be like, oh, I never use presets. What he's actually saying is he doesn't really know how to edit. You take a photo in the camera, and you might be using a black and white preview, a profile, but your real control, your real darkroom is here on the screen right here in your digital darkroom. That's where your power is. So whether it's Lightroom, whether it's Capture One, whether it's another raw editor, whether you're making your own, whether you're buying them, you need to have these tools in place. And I'm going to go in and just start scrolling through. Okay, and I'm seeing all these variants of this black and white photo. And that's what we're seeing in Silver 5, right? We have kind of the IQ Silver, which is the go-to silver, auto settings, things like that just do really cool things to the photos. Some of this uses the new AI tools in Lightroom. There's a lot happening in these. There's the Naked Silver, which is kind of just the classic silver mixes. Every one of these is doing something different over here. Every one of these is doing something different with your black and white conversion channels, your HSL channels. You have the Darkroom Silver here in Silver, which is really about not mimicking a specific film, but channeling that film feel. So all of the Darkroom Silver have grain and texture and that kind of atmosphere of the darkroom, whereas the other presets don't generally apply grain and things like that. They're going to leave that to you and to the mod kit. And then you have Shadow Silver, which is your more intense, kind of infrared, contrasty, like really cool things down here when you want to push those shadows further. And then you have some mods that are specifically related to silver. This adds on top of the presets you've added up here, mixing the channels, add an orange 56 or a yellow 12 filter, things like that. I edit all my black and white with presets. Just like if I want a film look, I go to film as presets. Whether I'm using Lightroom, whether I'm using Capture One. There's really just two ways that you edit. You edit on the raw file and convert to black and white with something like Lightroom, like Capture One. That's what I'm going to show you today. Or you go to something like Photoshop and you edit with layers and build up and channels and convert and things like that. That's what Blackroom actions actually make easy. And they both actually are great ways to do it. Generally, you're going to start on the raw file. Then if I want to go further with an image, if I want more atmosphere, more control, I'll just take it in and then do a Blackroom edit from there. And that's a different video. In this video, I want to focus on how you edit black and white better in Lightroom. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to put Aspen Meadow on this, right? On this shot of Yosemite. Then I can go up here, and this is one of the cool things that's new in Silver 5, is this mod kit is separated. These don't have to be used just on black and white, they can be used on anything. So I can come into mod kit now and click any of these and say, you know, I want to add more dynamic range, right? I want to do something with the sky. I can even go into using the AI tools now that are in Lightroom. I can say add the sky compressor AI, which is going to give me more sky control by a lot by using the AI sky selection in Lightroom. We have the HSL and color settings, right, that I would use in color. The raw apps tend to emphasize color, but we want to emphasize black and white. You can see if I added any of these mod kit presets, it would just be changing little things related to those presets because we haven't converted to black and white. These are the mod tools. These come after, but they're at the top and handy here, installed as a separate pack, because you can use them with any process. You don't have to limit yourself to just using these with Silver 5. If I say I'm going to convert this to Darkroom Crush, let's go over here and see what it's actually doing. Tone tools being changed, dynamic range, a lot happening in curves. This is a very curvy, rich one. The subtleties of curves can instantly ruin or make any photo, but especially a good black and white conversion, because it's all about that tone. Then it's combining with your black and white mix. Now, some of these IQ Silver presets up here do actually use auto mix, because they're trying to use the intelligent tools in Lightroom, but it's not always the most intelligent way to do it. So I might go down here to the mod silver within the silver pack and say, no, let's just mix up how we do the channels, right? Let's do a green 58, an orange 56, a yellow 12. And you can see how each one of these, even though if I click one of these, watch the curve channel, it's not changing anything with the curves. It's only changing these channels, but it's giving me a different look. The channels are important. If you turn down reds, it's going to affect, certain areas of the skin tones, the lips. If you turn up oranges, it's going to make the skin lighter. All of these things that we do as you edit a black and white will profoundly affect the output. Let's take this one, for example. And you can see that I have a fairly high dynamic range scene. It's pretty shadowy here. It's pretty bright up here. Yes, I could manually do this, but it's so much more efficient for me to come over and just kind of scroll over. And I can say, hey, Jungle River looks good. It's really kind of popping the whites. It's making things look good on the boat. All I lack now is my sky. I could go to something like Elegance presets, where I have these advanced masking and AI tools. But for purposes of this, I just want to stay within what I've created in the new Silver 5. And in that case, I could say, well, let's do like a little HDR expansion, but let's go down and do that sky compressor again. That's really versatile. It's going to run the AI tool, and it's going to give me a sky in the masks. You'll now see that sky, and I can adjust the settings on it. I can turn it on and off, etc. You need to make sure you have a system in place where you can bring a color image in, and then you have formulas. Whether it's Silver 5, whether it's your own favorite formulas that you've created over the years, what works on one photo, just saving that out, might work on your next photo, but it also might not work on your next photo. So if you really want to edit efficiently, you test. You get a formula that works, and this is what I do when I create presets. You get a formula that works, and then you test it on all kinds of different images. You take a photo like this, for example, and it's lit really weird, but there's kind of this drama and intensity. Clearly, though, where I'm going with it is a black and white. And so I'm going to go straight to something like Silver Skin. None of these are changing exposure. One of them is doing radically different things with the color channels, and one of them is more portrait focused, right? Silver Skin, Silver Glimmer, versus some of these other ones. And so one, like this one that looked great on the boat, looks utterly horrid on this. Why? Because the channels matter. How you move them a little bit here and there matters. How you move the curve. You're converting to black and white. You're bringing in all these different elements and saying, I'm going to apply this, and it's going to interpret that based on the tone, based on color channels, based on everything in that photo. I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time. Once you have formulas, if I say, hey, I'm going to do Silver Glimmer, this is a good portrait mix, I might turn up my exposure a little bit. We kind of have this a little bit harsh fashion light look, but actually the portrait looks pretty good right now. Now I could say, okay, it's a portrait. I'm going to go to Mod Kit. I want to go to Mod Kit, and I'm going to run the People Beauty AI, or I could do something from Elegance. And now I get this AI skin control combining with it. That Mod Kit preset added all of these. Now, if you use Elegance, this might actually seem very similar, because there's a lot of this kind of stuff in Elegance. Elegance is entirely focused on the masking, so there's a lot more in my Elegance pack, whereas the Mod Kit is a little bit of everything. We have exposure mods we can quickly add, HDR, expansion, curve mods, grain mods. The dynamic adaptive detail and noise is really cool. So it's adding grain and detail and noise reduction based on whatever photo you're giving it. The way the noise is coming across here, because this is shot at ISO 4000, it doesn't look great. It doesn't have a real filmicky, nice organic look. If I run the adaptive detail and grain, it does noise reduction, grain, detail, everything all in one, based on this photo, based on the ISO of this photo, not the one that I that I tested on your photo. So it's these little things that I've really built out in Silver 5 so that you don't have to, so that you're wasting less time here. Now I'm gonna go through and check my presets and see what works best to create what I had here. That matters. And people oftentimes run into this mistake where they kind of think, okay, it's a black and white. I'm just going to convert this to black and white. The reason you want to use native editing tools like this is I can say, hey, I'm going to apply a preset, I'm going to apply some mods, but unlike a plugin or something like that, where you apply an effect and then it bakes it in and you're stuck with it, all these are doing is they're taking these elegant recipes that have hundreds of hours of development in them and saying, okay, do I want more of a crushed shadow tone like Darkroom Crush, or do I want to do something a little more intense like Jungle River, and then maybe combine that in ModKit by putting a vignette around it, right? I kind of like this crushed look on this because it kind of softens down all the texture of the branches and leaves and things like that while leaving us this really bright kind of white water. And I could take that further by doing the white-black backlight mod here. So you can see what's happening and why this method works so good. It's been all about how can we do silver conversions faster and better all the time. It doesn't mean you should never take the best photo and go to Photoshop. If I have a really great photo, I'm probably still going to go to Photoshop. I'm probably still going to use Lightroom after I use silver. But first I'm going to use that raw file. I'm going to convert it with silver. I'm going to tweak it over here on this side if I need to. I can always make an image better. Even with all the AI layers and all the tools, if you give me a photo in black and white and say, take this to Photoshop and make it better, whether I'm using Lightroom actions, whether I'm doing it manually, I'll always be able to improve it because the layering kind of approach in Photoshop, you could do the similar thing in kind of Affinity. These are pixel layer-based editors, whereas things like Lightroom or like Capture One, these are raw-based editors. And there's a difference. One does not replace the other. You need both as a pro, even though most of your work will probably happen right here in the raw editor. There's a systematic formula here. We start with a raw file. Then we simply go through and I'm looking. Let's go down to something in the Darkroom Silver or maybe even the Shadow Silver and do something kind of really intense. Yosemite Light. This is really contrasty. It works for this bird scene. You've seen me edit this various ways before, but always in black and white because it was black and white intent. Then I can say, no, I want more in that white. I can just apply the white and black backlight. What's happening by putting the mod presets, and I've done mod presets in these things for years, but by taking these and saying, okay, you can select any formula, and these formulas have been refined using all the latest tools that I can in whatever software, whether I'm making styles for Capture One, whether I'm doing the presets in Lightroom and using the AI tools, I'm always adding in whatever's new to push these more. So it's one less slider, one less tool that you have to manually enter. Let's mix it up. Let's add grit to it. Let's add gradients. Let's add some AI masks. And you can go through and basically just play with these. Even though, yes, there's still a time to use Photoshop, you can do subtle enhancements of eyes and skin and things like that. But it takes a lot of building. You're building up these masks every time. That's just silly. That should be in a preset. And that's why we put it in a preset in Elegance. We put it in a preset in the mod kit. I'm going to do the AI Filmic or the Street Shooter, maybe something like that. Then I'm going to come in and I've done the People Beauty already on this. And now I'm going to do the Adaptive Noise and Detail. And so you can mix that up and find out which one. I can do HP Push here. It's a little less contrasty. I can do Light Fade 3200 and I'm going to get a little bit more of a crunch shadow, high ISO kind of feel, but it still looks really good. Some of these presets use, in the IQ Silver in particular, will use the auto black and white tone settings, maybe even auto white balance, things like that behind the scenes for you, just to give you more variety that you probably wouldn't try manually. The beauty of having 10 plus years behind developing these and hundreds of hours refining these and building these formulas up all the way to version 5 is that we have this level of refinement and saying, okay, what tools get us where we want to go the fastest? Some photos we take are in bright light. They're with a less contrasty lens like this vintage Helios here. And you want something that has more intensity to it, right? So I might go with the Renaissance on this and then start doing some mods, maybe the People Beauty, something like that. Whereas on the other photo of the Catarina here taken at night, it's too dark on this one, even though none of these are changing the exposure. most of the time, unless it's some kind of an auto kind of preset, the presets shouldn't change the exposure. All the AI tools are being put on the layers separately. So you can change your main formula in Silver 5 or manually tweak it over here, and you're actually not changing anything on your layers. And then you can say, okay, now I want to do something more with the skin or with the background or with the sky, and you can go up here to the layers, and you can now control those independently. It's giving you a formula that I've built and refined to try and be as versatile as possible. But then you can click on any of these layers and you can go in and refine the settings yourself if you want to. You can go anywhere with this. The secret of editing great black and white is trying the mixes. It's knowing how to refine. We have so many more tools now than we did have in the darkroom days in a lot of ways. But in the darkroom days, we had all these chemicals and nuances, and that's how we found kind of the atmosphere and the life of a great photo. You can see this is a little dark, so I might start by going straight to Mod Kit and brighten it up with the plus exposure, or just doing it manually until I feel it's good, right? So then I might go to a preset. Let's go to Jungle River, and we have this beautiful contrasty, good-looking image. I might still push my exposure up a little bit. Look what happens because we've introduced contrast and whites in such a good balance. The way it's mixing the greens, and where a lot of times we'll darken greens to get a good look. This one goes the other way. It darkens the yellows and brightens the greens. And so it really works good in this kind of forested scene like this. And it's bringing out so much texture in these trees and the water. Now I can just say, okay, I'm just going to adjust the exposure until it feels right. Because where I want to put my zones is more a question of my visualization. So the preset, a well-designed preset generally, unless it's specially for exposure, should assume that your exposure is correct. So what you want to do when you come into silver, a lot of times people will say, well, hey, do you have a list? Can you give us a list to like show us what each preset does? It's so much faster to just browse over a preset like this and try different things and say, hey, Lo-Fi Pops works on this. Now I'm going to push the exposure up a little bit and I got this really neat kind of soft feeling scene. You can move over and do all these different things so quickly. Making you a list and writing that out is not the secret to editing black and white, because you have hundreds of hours of refinement in channels, in details, and how it's mixing tones, clarity, the subtleties of the curves, the subtleties of the black and white HSL, all these elements that tweaking one just a little bit one way or the other can combine with the other elements to make a completely different image. And rather than have to do that manually, you just browse over. Don't be intimidated by Silver 5. Go in and just browse over the presets. Say, oh, that looks good. Oh, that looks better. Oh, that's even better. Take the one that you like. Then you just go up to Mod Kit and you can say, no, I want a little more grain. I want adaptive noise. I want a little more grit. I want softer skin. I'm going to put people beauty. I want a better sky. Put on the sky compressor. Apply a preset in Lightroom. Get the recipe so it's right near where you want it. Do the mods for grain, for detail, for sharpness, for dynamic range. Do a little manual adjustments. You'll be editing black and white so fast, but you'll be getting better black and white. The people that scoff at having their tools in order are not getting as good of a result. They have to go over here every time and they have to manually go in and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And they think there's a deception here that I've heard this for so many years in digital. They think they're doing better by manually adjusting everything, but they're not. And this is why, even though I have 20 years doing this, I don't edit that way, because I know that I'll do a more rudimentary edit that has less depth and I'll try less variations if I start from a manual. You always start with a good recipe and a good formula. And I promise you that whether you're using Silver 5 or any of my other preset packs or Filmist, or whether you've bought some other ones, or whether you're downloading some of the free ones off my site, or whether you're making your own presets, the key is to make sure that you only have the best in your kit. Don't fill up here. Don't go out and get some 1,000 presets. At that point, you're not going to try them all again. One of the things you'll see in Silver 5 is I've made a lot of effort to simplify. I've separated out the mod kit. I've made the mods better than ever, but you can have them when you're ready, and then you can tuck them out of the way. The formulas are more refined than ever. They're organized, and there's not too many of them. You will start using these without even thinking about them as you start doing this. I hope you'll apply this methodology of really have your recipes, really have your formulas in order. If you're using an older version of Lightroom, this is still going to work if you're on Lightroom 6 or something like that. But of course, you won't have the AI tools and the extendability that we've seen in some of the new versions. And those are getting very powerful. Guys, let me know in the comments if you have questions. I will also put a link to Silver 5 presets. If you don't have them, check them out. It, of course, supports the channel, but it's also going to support your black and white work. I guarantee it that if you start doing your black and white this way, it will improve and you're gonna love the results. Okay guys, we'll see you in the comments and we'll see you on the next video. Please hit that like and subscribe button for more and we'll talk soon.